What is happening? It's what, 2:30 Central Time, 12:30 where I am, and that is in San Francisco for Google Next. I know it's a different scene, it's a different place, but it's still the same Cloud Talk Live. Well, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cloud Talk Live, literally live from Google Next here in San Francisco. So excited to be here, but it's a different time, it's a different location, but it's some of the stuff remains the same. Love for you to introduce yourselves. Down there in the comments, type your name in, type your location in. Let's see how the audience changes coming to you at a different time of day. I'm really excited to see who is here today. And you're going to get to introduce my guest that I have for you here very shortly. But I would love for you to, again, introduce yourselves. And then also, if you want to get a hold of us here, same old things, folks, just send an email at solve@rackspace.com. Speaking of Solve, that is the thought leadership program that we have here at Rackspace. And that's how we bring you all of this great content. It doesn't cost anything to you. It is free. You don't have to give me your email address, your phone number, or your credit card. You can send that to Jeff at needsmoney.com. Okay, don't do that. That was just a joke. And but I would love for you to reach out if you have any comments, things you'd like to see changed. Maybe you have an idea for a guest. Maybe you want to be a guest. Send us an email, solve@rackspace.com. Now, we are, of course, here live. I see some folks coming in. I'm going to see who it is. We got Houston. Houston's here. Oh, you don't know who's sitting over there yet, but you will in a minute. Toronto is here. Maryland is here. So glad that you guys are following instructions so well and introducing yourselves. Hey, we're coming to you actually from across the street at Google Next at the W. We've got an amazing room, set up this really cool set. We had to make our guest feel comfortable, and I'm really excited to get to introduce you to the first of several Googlers you are going to get to meet this week, and it starts by introducing Brad. Brad Little, welcome to Cloud Talk Live.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm so glad that you're here. Now, I get to do this every single week, but I do it, I don't want to say I do it from my bedroom, it's not, it's my office, but it's just me and my guests are far, far away. But you're here. I'm like sitting next to another live human, and we're going to get to have a conversation.
I'm not a generative AI avatar or anything. I'm a real person.
Or are you?
Or am I? I don't know.
Or are you? Now, normally I'm doing this from San Antonio. Now, you don't live in San Antonio. You're from Houston.
I'm right down the road in Houston. That's right.
But before we get into all that, maybe you should introduce yourself and tell the good folks who you are.
Sure. Hi, folks. I'm Brad Little. I lead the professional services team as part of Google Cloud Consulting, and our job is basically to help our customers learn, adopt, support their solutions on GCP, and ultimately be successful. So we get to work with our customers and our partners every day, and we're happy to be here talking about what we do.
Awesome. So glad that you're here. Yeah. Hey, I want to call out a couple of folks. Yes, Gert, I did wear the shoes again. Anytime I go somewhere live, I love to bring the shoes. Who else? We got Maryland again is here. Germany's here. Isn't that
fantastic?
Cool? Mexico City is here. So glad that everyone is here. So you lead professional services for Google, but we were talking about important things like San Antonio, and exactly. What we were talking about before was, well, you were there for school.
I did. I went to Trinity University in San Antonio, so it's like my second home.
And you're still very connected there.
Absolutely.
And you trust it so much you even sent your daughter there.
I did. Somehow my reputation wasn't bad enough. They still let her come in there. So that was an accomplishment.
Now, an important question, we talked about this before, but an important question to ask anybody who hangs out in San Antonio for any amount of time is favorite Mexican food.
So two answers. The first one is for breakfast, it's got to be panchitos.
Now, folks, you're a true San Antonian, even though you don't live there anymore, when you have to divide it up by the different meal, right, which place you're going to.
And then for late night tacos, the original Taco Cabana is next to Trinity University, where I went to school. And so I got to go with Taco Cabana just for sentimental reasons.
Sentimental reasons. Yeah. It kept you alive.
It did, yeah. There used to be a coupon in the Trinitonian, which is the school newspaper, for 39-cent bean and cheese tacos. And when you're a starving college student, that was a lifesaver and kept us going for another few weeks when we needed it most.
That's awesome. All right, so I think we're going to talk about some technology maybe a little bit. If you're interested more about tacos, I'd love your opinions. Put them in the chat. Tell us where your favorite ones are. Hey, Pennsylvania's here. Love that. Hey, thanks for a compliment on the setup. We spent all morning working on that, Chris. Didn't it come out good? We wish you were here to help. So let's talk about tech a little bit. So here at Google Next, I've been setting up stuff here all morning, but the keynote happened this morning. First of a couple of days of announcements. What caught your attention?
Yeah, it kind of blew my hair back a little bit. There was a lot packed into that first hour and a half.
Yeah.
And so I kind of polled my team because there's more than we could even talk about in just this short meeting here today. But the top three are really the first one that's most impactful to both, I think, the Rackspace organization as well as Google is large token limits on models are now available. And we had seen some limitations there. Now we're able to ingest entire books or very large amounts of data as part of generative AI, which will open up a whole new range of use cases. And that's a super exciting improvement.
So with that, though, you and I know what a token is and why that would be impacting. But to the rest of the world, why does large token limits? Why does that matter to the world? What was the impact that they saw?
It's how much information you can put into a prompt in a generative AI use case. So during the keynote, it was a great use case example where they ingested the entire Department of Motor Vehicles manual, and then you could ask questions about what are the most common pedestrian laws that are out there and get the answer back. So if you're a customer looking to provide a summarization on top of your knowledge base, this allows you to use larger and larger sets of data to work with. So it's an important improvement. There were some limits before. Now it's much larger.
Well, and the be as smart as the data. So if you can have more datas, then you get better answers.
Exactly. I think the other thing, we saw a huge expansion in the number of available models, including public models like Llama 2, Claude 2. So again, giving greater choice to our customers, whether you're using Google developed models or other public models from some of our partners that are out there. The model garden continues to be a great way for customers to pick the right model that meets the use case that they need to solve for. So really excited about that. And then a ton of announcements around Duet, which is embedding generative AI into all of our products, whether it's sheets, slides.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. So, all of our products are infusing generative AI inside of there. So whether or not you're generating code, images with Imagen, or generating text embedded in your documents. There's a ton of improvements out there. I encourage everybody to go take a look at all that.
Well, here's what I love about that. When we saw the beginning of this year, I use the line, people woke up from their January 1st or their New Year's Eve, festivities, and then everybody could magically spell ChatGPT. But you and I both know that that's not a new technology. That's the kind of stuff that fundamentally has been worked on for decades upon decades. But even in the past decade was really when things started to refine, and those were data sets that really were in the works, but it got to a point where people could get in and actually do stuff with. But to call it now back to more specific to Google, you guys, the only cloud on the planet to have how many services that run 1 billion transactions or users a day? I get lost
9 or 10 at least.
9 or 10, 11 or 50. It just goes up. But here's what I love about it is when ChatGPT showed up earlier this year, and the light bulb went off of why data mattered. If we just get back to the fundamentality of it, and that is that data matters so that you can put it into an intelligent service to ask questions of it.
That's right.
Now what you're doing, when you guys have talked about how you've infused those capabilities into the tools that people use every single day, that use case becomes even more personal because they're in doing the things that they do. Start this paragraph for me. I need to communicate this thing. How do I actually write this function? These sorts of things that now get baked into the whole workspaces.
Well, that's exactly right. And that's why it's important for our partners and our customers to understand there's a big difference between general purpose large language models and fit for purpose large language models. So things like ChatGPT and of course Bard, they're great, but they're general purpose models essentially meant for consumers. But for large enterprises, they need a much more robust and tailored approach.
That's right.
Built on top of highly curated and very clean data sets to get the answers you back. Otherwise, you get into hallucinations and all these other kinds of things that can be overcome, but it's important to understand the model that and the use case you're going to be using.
Who would have thought that this time last year that we would be referring to computing having a characteristic of hallucinations? And now it's just common to the rest of us.
It's in all of our vocabularies now.
I know.
It's really interesting,
but I'll go back to those use cases because even though the folks in all of these enterprises have been clamoring for clean data and looking for budget and looking for projects to be approved, it took these sorts of
That's
things
right.
where this, I think that you see the C-suite really light bulbs going off, going, hey, I can ask this of Sheets, or I can ask this inside of Docs. I actually want to ask this question of my financial system. I want to ask this of CRM. I want to ask this of my contract database.
Exactly.
Now he goes knocking on the data team and goes, yes, we know how to do that.
Well, people have been using this phrase that data is the new oil. And that's kind of been thrown around, to your point, over the last 10 years. And, conceptually, okay, yeah. But I think the generative AI has made data accessible to the average person. It makes it accessible to executives in an easy way. And so the light bulb, you're right, has come on. And so customers are now, the conversations we're having start with generative AI, but they rapidly move into, okay, how do I improve on my data strategy? How do I migrate my data to the cloud in a way where I can access it in a way? It also raises important questions about data security.
Sure does.
Because you don't necessarily want to allow your HR information data to be sitting and easily accessible by generative AI, where anybody in your company can ask what the CEO's salary is. So
that's right.
You have to be much more thoughtful about data security and how you want to architect all this stuff.
Yeah, those days of security by obscurity really don't fly anymore.
That's right.
We saw that melt away. I come up in technology out of the SharePoint space, and one of the first things that happened was there was so much security by obscurity. It was just hidden in a subfolder of a subfolder of a subfolder. All of a sudden, you get an index. I mean, you guys saw this as well when you started putting appliances into organizations, and all of a sudden you do a search on, reporting structure beneath the CEO down to the janitor, and now
absolutely,
that can
all
be
that unstructured data is now accessible and easily recognizable. It's a powerful tool.
But you sort of had to look for it before. Now you can just ask for it.
Yeah. Exactly right.
Which is the whole generative thing. You mentioned the phrase "data is the new oil," and that I think the data scientists and analytics folks came up with that one just because they were beating the drum of how important data was. Without that light bulb use case, and now where we are, the light bulb use case has gone off. Everybody's making the run. I've heard the phrase that data is also the oxygen, which I think I'm liking more because if without it you die.
That's probably a better one than greasy oil and all the
My favorite one really is data is the soil, is the dirt. It's the soil that your business grows up out of.
I like it.
So we can talk analogies all day
long. You coined it here,
I guess.
okay.
I know.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. I get a nickel anytime anybody uses it. So send those to jeff@needsmoney.com. That's the second time I've said that today. I'm really not that hard up for cash. All right, so we were talking about announcements. Let's go back to announcements. I think you had one more maybe.
One more. I think, the CEO of NVIDIA joined Thomas on the stage, and
they are the cool kids on the block.
They are the cool kids on the block, so we were very happy to have him join us. It was an announcement about a deeper partnership between our two organizations to optimize AI compute, and just some incredible context there. Part of the NVIDIA solutions will run on Google Cloud Platform, so we're super excited about that.
Right.
So I'd draw your viewers' attention to those announcements. I think it's very impactful for our business for sure.
Yeah, and we'll be doing sum-ups of all these announcements and why they matter as the week progresses, as more data comes out about it. So you want to pay attention to that stuff. But Brad, you're with you leading professional services for Google here in North America. What announcements? I think you've got a little announcement that maybe hasn't been announced yet. Maybe we can.
We're going to give you early announcement status on the webcast here. So
we're getting the scoop.
Starting tomorrow, we will be announcing Delivery Navigator, which is a platform for our partners to use that will give all of our partners access to our internal tooling, methodologies, and ways of working in Google professional services and cloud consulting. We want to help our partners and our customers adopt the platform as rapidly and efficiently as possible.
Yeah.
And Delivery Navigator is a way to do that. It's also enabled by generative AI. You can't make a product release without having Gen AI on top of it these days.
Nothing releases without Gen AI in it.
But what it'll allow is for our partners and our practitioners to ask questions about how do I do a VM migration? What's the best architecture for any given use case? What's the best way to create a cloud foundation? And we also feel like we have a responsibility as Google Cloud to set some standards for the overall professional services world.
Good.
I mean, our customers are, they see us, they work with a lot of partners, including our team, and they're saying, hey, look, everybody's coming in with different ways of working, different lingo, different deliverables, different phases.
Yeah.
There's different definitions of what a foundation is. Can you please bring some order to the overall market. So this is another way that we're doing that. We're providing it free to our partners. So you'll see more about that in our announcements tomorrow, and we're excited about it. It's been we've been working on this for the last 2 years, and our team has been. It's a Google developed product with Google content, but also we want our partners to collaborate with us and contribute content back into it. We've always come from an open source mindset at Google, so
yeah, you have.
We want
Can you
to,
say containers?
to help out.
Yeah.
We can do containers. That's right.
That's right. Well, I mean, you led the market. I mean, you invented them, and then you gave it away.
Exactly.
Which is sort of the Google thing.
Well, the idea is customer first, and so how do you make it easy for customers to adopt the platform? We believe they shouldn't be struggling with tools and templates and best practices. Those things should be available and known to everybody.
Yeah.
And let our partners and customers really focus on what's important, which is adding value, creating new amazing solutions on the cloud.
Well, now you've thrown the word partner around a lot, and it amazes me still that I run into companies and just folks who say, well, why do I need a partner? Because I can swipe a credit card, I can set an agreement up with Google, and I can head on out there and try it myself. We have phrases for those folks internally. I shouldn't say it out loud. But why are partners important to Google?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so first of all, our strategy with the market is we scale through partners.
Yeah.
They are absolutely at the center of our strategy. And we're not trying to build a large professional services organization. We are a software company. We're a platform company. And that's our mission.
But you do have some professional services.
We do, and that's the team I lead. But our role is we work side by side with our partners. We help our partners and our customers have access to the really unique engineering talent that exists inside of Google. We're often on the front end of new products that are being released. We're the first ones who get our hands on it, and we try to make it easy for our partners to adopt. So things like Delivery Navigator are meant to be rolled out to rapidly share that information and knowledge so our partners can rapidly build teams and build size and scale to go off and do the amazing things that Rackspace does. So and that's why we launched a partnership with Rackspace to create a joint offer.
Yeah. We have a joint offer.
We have a joint offer, and you're probably excited to hear about that. But it's basically we've created a joint solution where our mutual customers can migrate VMs at a fixed object-based price per cluster of VMs, and it's an easy way for them to know they get a predictable result at a predictable price. Sometimes these things
That is one of the biggest complaints that companies have.
That's
they have visions of what it would be to take and move. Take maybe a two-step process. We're going to move all the VMs in, and then we're going to parse them out into cloud native E or containers or whatever it might be. But a lot of companies get stuck. And then once they get stuck, they've moved into a model that maybe isn't economically as consistent or as beneficial as even just running some VMs on a hypervisor somewhere. But it sounds like this model maybe solves for some of that.
Exactly. It's meant to take all of the guesswork out up front. We've got all the predefined migrations, accelerators, motions, deliverables.
And partners.
All worked out between Rackspace and Google. I think what's unique about this is customers get the best of Rackspace, they get the best of Google talent on these programs. So whatever happens, you're covered. And they have a price point that is predictable, and it scales to tens of thousands of VMs if that's what they need to do, or as little as a few hundred. So we're excited about that.
I remember back it was 2018 or 2019, and I was helping out over at one of the other, I'd left Rackspace and I was with another company and I was helping with the Microsoft stuff, and they had boasted and said 2019 is the year of migrations, so we can be done with that. As if they could be done with that. As if anybody could be done with that.
Yeah.
But yet there's still the amazing innovation that's occurring in this space, because there still are so many workloads yet to be in the most optimal location for them.
That's right. There is a lot of room left to move to the cloud out there. And there's good reasons why some companies have been a little hesitant, but I think we're well past that now. And especially for those that want to fully adopt the new generative AI capabilities that are coming out. I mean, that information needs to be in a flexible and scalable environment like the cloud provides.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what we're seeing is the energy around AI and generative AI is reigniting a lot of stagnant conversations or stagnant programs that maybe coming out of the pandemic, people kind of slowed down a little bit. That's completely changed. And so customers are like, oh my gosh, I really do need to get serious about this.
Everyone was very much in to keep the lights on for the past few years. Let's just, can we not break stuff?
Yep.
But still, at the same time, so much data got moved out into the cloud. In some cases, data separate from the compute, and that created some challenges as well. But just to get it into a location where everyone would have access to it. But now it's time to really think about how to innovate to not just get ahead, not just survive, but very much get ahead.
Absolutely. And moving to cloud doesn't mean everything has to be in one cloud either.
Right.
We're a big believer in hybrid cloud. That's why we created the Anthos technology. Allows our customers to manage their infrastructure in a hybrid way, whether in multiple clouds, even with part of your data on premise, you can do it in a seamless way. So, we believe we've never been a believer in forcing everybody into a single monolithic platform. That's never been our way of working, and that's not, frankly, how we work inside of Google either. So we want to make it easier for our customers to do the same thing.
That's interesting. But I do appreciate how far ahead you guys were with the Gen AI stuff. In fact, it was Google that we chose as we curated our offerings in and around Gen AI. We chose Google Cloud to launch with first.
Thank you for that.
And when you think Gen AI, I mean, our examples are very much around how do we expose to our internal rackers the data that they need to do their job. So we're not looking at public models. We're using private models for this stuff. So that, we basically have we create some really cool stuff. Because, as you get excited about it, some companies aren't as excited as you are on the front end. And so we looked internally, how could we make our own company better at what we do? So we took 2 use cases. The first was, we said, how many people phone up or email the help desk going, how do I reset my password? How do I get a new phone? How do I fix my computer? Do whatever. We took all that body of knowledge and made it a Gen AI solution.
Beautiful.
Now we just ask the question,
Great
and
use
it does
case.
it for us. It's fantastic. The other solution is for our sales folks, because imagine we have a stable of partners. We have a vast array of offerings, from professional services to cloud-based services to private cloud services, application services. And it's hard for sales folks to stay up to date on all of the things. Well, we took the engines and pointed it at internal SharePoint sites, at internal wikis, at internal files, the unstructured file share stuff, and now we can ask the question, what's the right way to build a Google Cloud environment for this type of a thing? Here's all that information. We can even ask them and say, now, write an email for me that has all of the top 5 benefits of that to this customer, and include these types of things, and off that comes.
Those are all great use cases. I mean, summarization of large bodies of data is probably one of the fastest return to value. We're able to do these in 2 or 3 weeks, in a non-productive state, but get customers to a point where they can understand it. We worked with companies like law firms, who have massive volumes of data. Tell me the last time we had a case that involved X, Y, and Z. Boom, here's the answer. We've had customers like U.S. Steel. It was discussed in the keynote this morning, where we assisted them to summarize their maintenance history and vehicle information to help their maintenance and repair folks better diagnose and solve mechanical problems. At least a better reliability, vehicle safety, and all this kind of stuff. Even cases with some of our quick serve restaurants like Wendy's, we're using their data on their menus to roll out a talk to menus application. You'll hear about that this week, where if you go through the drive-through, you can order a Big Dave's double bacon cheeseburger, and that's using traditional vector AI to understand the logic behind that, but also generative AI understanding speech to text, and then back-end integration to the point of sale system. So
incredible.
All kinds of new applications. I think just the only limitation is people's imagination at this point.
All right, so we've talked a lot about some of these announcements that Google has this week. We've talked about your own announcements, our partnership, and the things that we're doing together. But I always like to ask the question, how are you personally using AI?
How am I personally? Oh gosh,
I didn't give him any hint that I was going to ask that question.
I love the inside of Google Docs using generative AI to help me start an email or write a large summary. I had to write a position. We write a lot of white papers internally to kind of socialize new ideas, but then you have to summarize those. So I took a 30-page white paper, put it into Bard, and had it summarize a quick email for me. And it came out almost perfect. I tweaked a couple things, but it saved me.
Adjust, put it in your voice.
Yeah,
off we go.
It saved me 45 minutes of like agonizing. Oh, did I forget everything? Is it flowed? And here I had a great template to start with. Just
incredible.
Things like that throughout the day. You're saving a few hours at the end of it.
Well, Brad and I asked the question because I want to encourage everyone. Everybody says, I hear this a lot. They'll say, "Hey, I want to be using it more, but my company hasn't launched it yet, and so I can't." Well, you can. There are these types of use cases where you can send that data into a public, a tool like Bard and have it give you the information back. I may or may not have written your title for this event in the description utilizing Bard. Okay, I absolutely did. I absolutely did. Because it does a much better job than I do. And it's so fun to play with too, because you get what you need and then you can start to play with it. Okay, now make it sound like Captain Kirk. All right, now put it in the voice of Jerry Seinfeld. And it does these sorts of things. And it's really quite fun.
And that's the magic right there. There's real value in making things sound like Jerry Seinfeld.
I know. It's like, so the title, and so I said, now I always start with the description. Here's how I do these prompts. I start with the description. I give it lots of information, and then end with, now ask me any other questions you need to know to be able to do this well, and I answer those questions.
Okay.
And eventually I get this description. Now make it smaller, and I get the smaller, and say, now based on all of that, give me 5 examples of good titles that'll be compelling. And I get the titles. And then I say, now put it in the voice of Jerry Seinfeld.
I love it. And having a co-pilot like that, regardless of the role that you have in your company, I think that's the mindset we need to get into is whether you're developing code, you're writing prose, you're a creative and creating new works of art or whatever it is, placing you, it's giving you a really powerful assistant to be more productive in whatever it is you're doing. So I'm very bullish on it. Me
too. Now, I do want to touch on one more other thing. It's not going to replace you and I, but it is in the process of replacing that young lady or gentleman at the drive-through window. Now, still somebody has to hand me my food, but nobody's taking that order anymore.
That's true. I think the way some of our customers are looking at it is it's freeing those individuals up to do higher value things. Making sure the orders are accurate. Having greater throughput of the drive-through, making sure those orders are accurate, making sure that there's an ability to have a consistent customer experience from store to store, and also there's tons of opportunity for cross-selling and upselling when you and today that's really hard to do when you're working across thousands of individuals, and today you can roll that out. So it's a different nuance there.
And this type of in some cases I'll call it fear-mongering. It goes back to every technological advancement, even when electricity started to show up. Even when the car showed up, oh, you can't put all those horses. I didn't say put horses out of work, but what you have to do is look for where's the higher value. And oftentimes, almost all the time, it's a better job to have anyway.
There'll be jobs in the future we have no idea what they're going to be. Like today, 5 years ago, no one was talking about prompt engineering.
No.
That's a job now.
100% a job.
Crafting those prompts in a creative way is super important. I have a colleague, Ben Royce, who teaches at Columbia University. And he has gotten to the point where he is grading his students not on the actual papers they write, but based on the prompts that they put into the generative AI tool to generate the paper.
That's brilliant.
And it shows you, if you write a correct prompt, you actually have to understand the content and the knowledge to produce the thing. And so it was really creative. Apparently it was controversial with the university, but Ben, he found his way through that.
He found his way through that. I was literally watching a video last night on prompt engineering, and here's a little tidbit for you before we close up, is at the end of this prompt engineering, the person would always add, think deeply about this before answering. And that made a tangible difference in the results.
Absolutely. Isn't
that amazing? Why wouldn't it think deeply in the first place? I don't know. It's for another topic. All right. So we're here the rest of the week.
I am.
All sorts of announcements to come. More detail on yours is going to be tomorrow. So
More's coming out. Look for a blog post from me tomorrow. Also on social media, where we'll be blasting it out. So take a look. We're excited about it. And if anybody's here, please come by and see our presentation tomorrow afternoon.
Fantastic. Everyone, I want to thank you so much for joining us here for our first live stream from Google Next. And of course, a huge thank you to Google for being such a part of this. This is the first of many live streams from very amazing Googlers who are going to be a part of this. So make sure that you are watching the Rackspace feed, watch my own feed over on LinkedIn, and you'll see the announcements of us coming on. So everyone, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for all of the comments down below. And of course, make sure that you swing by not only the Google booth, but over to booth 217, which is where you'll find Rackspace if you're here right now at Google Next. Everyone, have a great rest of your day. Brad, thanks for being here today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, everybody.